It is Monday. It is baking hot and it is SPTV. Good morning, my lovely, lovely friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. It is a beautifully sunny day for the next couple of hours at least. I have heard tell of thunderstorms on their way, but we will see what happens when we see what happens. But welcome, one and all, to the starting of your day and indeed the starting of your week, not only for yourselves but for SPTV as we kick off the SPTV week with this show, your show, a chance for you to discuss that which you are interested in, anything and everything. Today is open house, and I'm very, very pleased to see you all here. Good morning, one and all. Thank you for joining us. I hope you are not melting too much. If you are, make sure you are plenty hydrated and trying to keep as cool as possible. Stay out of the sun, because there's enough light inside you to keep you going. It's going to be one of those days, my friends. So welcome along. Good to see you all. We've got loads going on today. We have got talk of something special, which we'll talk about later, where you can get involved. We've got talk of tonight's show. We have got Kate May, of course, and we've got you. Today is all about what you want to talk about. Fire your questions, fire your comments, fire your thoughts. We will discuss, chat, mingle, mull, and then you'll probably get a message as well, because it's one of them days. So let's see who's about on SPTV land this morning with saying a few good mornings. Is there anybody there? Is there anybody there? Gracie's there. Good morning, Gracie. Gracie Trappini, good to see you and welcome along to the show. Tonya Hikes, good morning to you. Coming in on the YouTube stream. Stace, good morning. Nick and Richard, good morning to you. Welcome along. Natalie Bentley, morning all, and morning to you too. Nicola, morning Nick and Richard, good morning as well. Lovely to see you here. Christine Davis, my lovely lady, welcome along. Hello, how are you? Millie B, good to see you, my love. Good morning to you. Limo, hiya from the toasted Netherlands. Good morning to you. Joanne Harvey, morning. Good morning to you. Morning Mother, also known to everyone else as Linda Brown. Good morning. Kev Day, good morning to you. That's what we're hoping to be here for, so stay tuned, get sharing. And that's really an important comment, actually. Share, like, and subscribe. Get involved, join the comment. Keep sharing the dream, and we will see what we can do. Wendy Lindsay, good morning with a bright sunshine. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Good morning, darling. Nina Edwards, good morning to you. Welcome along. Good to see you. And it is so good to see you all. Welcome to the show. And like I said, we've got lots to do today. We've got discussions, topics, and conversations, and messages. I'm going to be banging out messages this morning as much as possible. So stay tuned and get sharing. But most importantly, the topic of conversation is up to you. Today we are, well, you never know. Stick around, because there's a reason for that, and I'm assuming that lovely lady in the picture is Mum too. Joanne Harvey says, "Oh my God, Mum used to sing that song." So, Joanne, give me a couple of minutes. You quite likely will be coming back to you. I use songs as triggers quite often with Spirit. They love to stick a song in my head, especially when I'm feeling down in the dumps and miserable. Stace says, I have been scrolling the internet for more fellow mediums and psychics. And oh my gosh, the amount of questionable ones out there. It makes me so cross. That's a really good topic of conversation. Well, now there's a challenge, right? Okay, everyone at home. Richard has just said, don't get me started. I think we will, actually. I was talking in a workshop yesterday about what makes a memorable, good medium. Interestingly enough, evidence didn't come in the top 10. the evidence and the quality of evidence was there, but it was mostly about personality, about attitude, about behavior. And of course, as spiritualists, we know that the two intermingle and interlap. And if you've got a cruddy, useless, pointless method of behaviors, do you really think spirit want to make good use of you? So yeah, we could get started on that. What do you think at home? What makes good mediumship and good evidence? Give me a training session for a change. What are your thoughts, my friends? It's going to be one of those days where we discuss what you want to discuss. It is your option to have a conversation. Good morning, Auntie Valerie Hoops. Good to see you. It's And if anybody wants to come on for a reading live, get in touch, give Richard a shout. I'll get you on and give you a reading right on screen right here. Good morning, Sally Ann, who says hello, Nick and Mr. Producer, and all, covering all of the bases there. Good for you. Well done. And Julie, well done for shared and followed. Good on you. Please remember that we spread the word by sharing, not stars. We spread the word by ensuring that people know we are here. So help by just clicking share. It costs you nout. Wendy Lindsay, empathy and a good listener. Absolutely. If you're going to be touching on a difficult subject, if you're going to be touching on emotions, you have to be with a level of empathy and listening. One of the things that really, really grinds my gears, and Joanne Harvey says something only I would know that you validate. Absolutely. It's evidence is essential as part of the mediumship process. But when it comes to that personality of empathy and being a good listener also, you know, one of the important things for me is to be able to jump between those emotional situations. You have to deal with emotional situations in a way that is of, you know, politeness at the very least, and recognize that people need help. People need kindness and people need compassion. And one of the, as I was saying, one of the things that really, really grinds my gears is when a recipient says, "Oh, I know what it is. Thank you very much. It's not quite what you meant, but I get it." Don't try and lecture the recipient on what they do and do not know. It's just unkind, and we aren't supposed to know everything. So sometimes we just have to let it lie and know that we're not going to know everything. I'm happy not knowing everything. I'm happy being a bit dumb of these things. I don't know what everybody else thinks on that. Stace says evidence and integrity and bringing the essence of past one's personality. Absolutely. And constructive guidance for the recipients for the better. Absolutely agree with that. But one thing we must also go hand in hand, my view, with that is letting people know that if the person coming through was rubbish at giving guidance, play safe with them. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that now they're in the higher realms of light that their advice has got any better. Trust me, I have been burned by that. Listening to advice from someone who I thought had suddenly ascended in knowledge as well as physicality. And the guidance was still a bit pants. It always was from them. They meant well, but there you go. So we must also be aware that guidance is good, but if they weren't very good at guidance, no. Right, now I love this question. This is a really, really good one coming in from Limo. I have a question. Why does Spirit keep repeating a message they know you are not willing to hear and ruin your mood? I believe there's an old saying, and it's not a very, very cheerful one if you've got this frame of mind. The truth hurts. Sometimes, if they are of a position where they're good at giving advice, obviously, they will want you to take heed because they want to help you. And if the situation is that you're ignoring it because you're not willing to hear it, doesn't mean to say they're going to stop giving advice. I'm going to throw that back at Limo because I've had some interactions over the years with Limo. The question is this: if you gave someone some advice and they weren't willing to hear it, look me in the eye later on and tell me that you would shut up and not keep repeating it until it got home. People are people, whether they are in the physical or the realms of light. And if they are stubborn, willful, and wanting to help you, not going to give up. And that is important because that's part of the validation of the personality. It's part of validation of who that person was in this life and is in the next life. And if they care, they're going to keep fighting to get through. One thing I've learned in this life, one thing that I've learned that doesn't always really, oh, I know you will. Limo just said, I will tell you at 2 p.m. and I know you will. One thing that I know is that caring and compassion sometimes needs to be a little bit harsh, and they're not going to give up on you. And we have to sometimes learn the hard lessons. Doesn't mean to say that the medium should continue to force it down your throat, but just pass the information on and move on. And, you know, as much as this is a comment that will raise a few eyebrows, I'm sure, is you've got to read the room. You've got to know who you're talking to, in the sense that if that person, that recipient, is pushing you away and doesn't want to hear it, go easy on them. Spirit, they can get grumpy and stubborn and keep repeating themselves, but we really shouldn't. And that ties in very well with what Joanne's just said. Joanne Harvey says, we must also be open in order to receive messages. No point being a cynic and expecting to not being open. I believe. I totally agree with you. I could give someone all the evidence in all of the world, but if they're absolutely in that mindset that we are charlatans or fakes, or even worse, something darker, it's not going to be heard. It is not going to be heard, and you will get no. So as much as I have to tell you, Joanne, you've reminded me of a wonderful phrase my mentor used to tell me. She used to say to me, bear with 1 second. Thank you. My mentor used to say to me, recipients could do with some training sometimes too. Because sometimes we as mediums come to a recipient who wants to hear that just one piece of information and wants to hear just that one thing said, and will say no to everything else. And that's a shame, really, because if we get in the flow and get that information going and we're being accepted for the information that's being provided, it's likely that that information will come. But if we are getting that wall, we're not going to be able to operate. We should be able to, but we are only human after all. Interesting story about recipients. Gordon Higginson, when he was sat in development, would sit facing the wall opposite the door and looking away from the door. He would be blindfolded. His ears would be bunged up. I believe there was even tied to the chair at one point by hands. And only then would they bring in his recipient. He would then have to relay the information that he was giving, and they would then have to leave, and he would be allowed to then see and hear. So he would have to give that information blind, with no response from any person that was getting that information. And it was a great way of working, because that then removes from us as mediums the fear of that response that stops us from being able to move forward from no's. I'm, past worrying, I see no's as a way of improving and growing and going back and getting more information. And actually, when you find out why you got it wrong, that can provide more evidence too. But when it came to that particular lesson and development, it was showing that we don't necessarily need another human being to give us the validation of our information. We just like it. We're human beings. We want response. We want company. We want communication. We want conversation. So if anybody is out there wanting to come on and say hello and come on screen with me and get a message, just let Richard know. So I hope that helps, Joe. Sally Ann says, I asked for 2 years when I'd be moving and got vague replies until one particular medium actually asked the spirit to be specific and gave me the date and week, and it came true. To me, that is such great evidence. And it is, we tend to forget that we can ask. Because you get in a routine of working, perhaps. It depends on the medium. There's no one hard and fast answer because everybody works differently. But the point is, I'm having a download from the big voice in my ear. Bear with, everyone. Oh, Richard's coming on. Get ready, everybody. He wants to share a story. Woo! But yeah, Sally Ann, I've got a few things to say about that, and there's the bit about fortune telling, there's the bit about going back and getting and fighting for that information and just asking. We all get into a routine where we get stuck in set in our ways, and sometimes it's really, really difficult to remember that it's a conversation, not a run of a list. Are you there, Richard?
No.
Oh, he's not there yet. So I'll just.
Yes, I am. I am here. Good morning, everybody.
He caught me out. Good morning, Mr.
morning.
Richard. How are you? Oh, loving it. Bit melty, so excuse me if I'm dabbing. There. Yes, I'm in a conservatory.
Have you got an ice lolly or something? Linda, have you got an ice lolly for him? Keep him cool in the house. I don't usually allow to eat food online, but I think I'll allow it this time.
Oh, no, I haven't, but I have got an aircon unit blowing at me, so I am being good. And these are nice and cool too. So good. You had something to share about Sally Ann's comment.
It's something that Stacey said earlier on about mediums and how there's so much rubbish out there, and then she gets frustrated. And that is the issue, I think, with a lot of mediums. And people put down mediums and readers and so forth. They say, oh, it's a con. But then my argument is this, where you've got people who are plumbers, electricians, doctors, mechanics, all the same thing. There's always people in an industry that has a similar sort of thing. There's always con artists, especially mechanics,
yes, there are.
Insurance people and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But for me, it's you have to be savvy. You have to understand how the industry works. Now, I've told this story many times to a lot of people, and I may have even mentioned it on this platform. But for those who haven't, please bear with me. As some of you know, that I've worked in the television industry for many years, and I know how a lot of the industry works. Not all of it, but a majority of how the industry works. And I'm going to tell you a story how mediumship works on a larger scale. Now, I'm not saying this is true for everybody. What I'm saying is through my research and through my own knowledge and my own witness of what I see the industry. Now, let's take a well-known medium, let's say, who travels the UK doing tours at theatres. Guildhall theatres, for example, Nick.
Yes.
And let's say this Guildhall theatre will have around 3,000 people. They do a Friday night, a Saturday night, a Saturday afternoon and a Sunday afternoon. So they have Sunday night off. Charging £25 per ticket. Sell out. That's an estimated of £75,000 for that one city. Okay?
Yes.
So what they do those 3 nights. After expenses, travelling expenses, hotels and the Guildhall taking their percentage. So let's say an estimate of £50,000 per city. So they do that. And then they travel to another one. And they do it all again. But this is how they do it. They go to a theatre. It's a 2-hour show, 2.5-hour show. They spend 15, 20 minutes talking to you. Asking how people are, how the show works, making you laugh, making you feel good. Bear in mind there's 3,000 people in there. They then have a connection. They open it up to the audience. That's going to take 10, 20 minutes. Because everybody's going to have a John in spirit. Everybody's going to have a dad who's grey hair, who's going bald and who's had a heart attack, who's had cancer. Too many similar things. Get to the point, get to the evidence, stop waffling, get on with it. The sort of thing. So that's about 10, 20 minutes. To then go to the recipient. The recipient then takes it all. They may not take everything, but they're going to say yes anyway because one, they don't want to feel embarrassed, and two, they want to make themselves look good and hope the recipient does come through who they're looking for. Right? That's, yet again, I know it's generality there. So you do that. So then that's that one message. The second message, very similar, but it's a bit shorter. In between that, there's a conversation with you. I'm saying that's good, but after each reading, they would turn around and say to the audience, "Oh, that was really good. I got your dad through. We got this right, that right, this right." They've ignored all the no's. They've ignored all the other issues around the reading that the recipient can't take. So what they're doing, they're brainwashing you, the viewer in the audience, saying, "Oh, that was good." So what happens is you only remembering what he or she is telling you. So once that's done, they go to the last one, the second one, and that takes about a good 20 minutes because they want to look good before the break. And then they tell you again how good it was. They have that half an hour break. They come back, they have their 15 minutes chatting away, and they do the same thing again. But the very last reading is about half an hour.
Yeah.
Because they want to make it look so good. And yet again, the individual is telling you how good it was. And then they're going to say to you at the end, "I'm going to stay behind." They're going to joke about buying their books. They've all got to live, blah, blah, blah. The book's £10.50 sort of thing. And then they meet people afterwards for a quick photograph and a signature of the book. If you buy their book, they'll sign it for you to make themselves and boost their ego a little bit. All behind thinking, "God, I've just made 50 grand out of this lot." And then what happens? Lockdown happens.
Yeah.
They disappear. They don't bother coming on to support their followers, say, "I'll do a few lives for free." They don't ring up or contact people to ask how they are. No, nothing. But in that time, they write a book. And then they come back and they do a tour again. And they expect you, who they haven't bothered with, to support them again. Who, within 1 year, has made £700,000.
Yeah.
While you struggle. My advice to everybody, don't go to see these people. Go along to your local spiritualist church. Go along to your local medium event, which is only £10. Go with your friends, have a night out, and support the local medium. Because I'm telling you now, that local medium is going to be just as good, if not better, than the so-called con person who's in a theatre. My argument is, do not support these people, because these people are really in the industry to sell themselves, to make themselves look good, take the money, and don't bother with you, because it's all about marketing and selling. That's what I've experienced throughout the years. This is what people do, the so-called celebrity mediums. They're not. They're marketing con artists, in my view, and they don't deserve my £25 to watch them. I'd rather go and support a local church or a small hall. So with going back to what Stacey's saying, please, please, please think before you start booking. "Oh yeah, they're really good." You don't hardly have a chance to 3,000 people to go and see them. You don't.
Yeah.
I
completely agree, Richard. And of course there's going to be a spectrum of behaviours and attitudes between the spiritualist churches and the village halls and the big theatres. Of course there's going to be a spectrum of people and behaviours and attitudes, but you're absolutely right. Look, the spiritualist churches are dying. There's huge internal politicking. There's huge disagreements. Finances are difficult. It costs. Take, for example, the church that I went to last night. I served a reasonably local church. It was 25 minutes away from where I was. They had good numbers, don't get me wrong, but they don't ask for a set fee. They literally say, voluntary contribution. We suggest a minimum of £1, but if you can't afford it, don't worry. They take a collection. They get a different medium every time. So you've got that runaround. And what you can do, and this is something that Lynn, my mentor, used to rave about, and I know that you would agree with it. Good morning, Reverend Tony. Hello. Tony Swindle says, "I have come across this type of thing." and he and I have discussed this on numerous times. For those that don't know, Reverend Tony is one of 5 bishops that run the Independent Spiritualists Alliance, of which he and I are 2 of them. And we have discussed this on numerous occasions and had similar conversations to what Richard has just shared with everyone. And of course there's going to be a spectrum, but this church that I went to, they take a donation, they organize a different medium every single meeting, and you can go along for a few quid and either watch a medium work or get a reading yourself if you don't. You can either get a message yourself for a few quid or watch them work and see their quality and behavior. Ask them for a card afterwards and go and get a private reading that way. You'll probably end up be paying upward of 25 quid for most people, but it's the same price as one of those tickets, and the whole time you're there you are the focus. The church that I went to last night, Kerry, was in Swaffham. It's the Swaffham Swaffham Spiritual Awareness Group. Beautiful people. And here's the thing, with the churches dying as they are, we need to fight for them. We need to support them, because this is where genuine mediumship grows. They have development circles and workshops that don't break the bank. They have workshops and circles that help people and help keep the church going. They run events that keep you excited and happy. The movement is growing, as Stacey says, but the churches are struggling and there are a lot of closures. This is a combination of things. This is a combination of politics and moneying and insurance policies and rules and procedures, but it's also people not supporting them. It's great that we have an ability to reach each other all over the place, but don't forget your local church, because it's where someone like myself developed and grew and learned and became a medium, as many of my colleagues and friends in this way of life. I'm not saying if you didn't learn in a church, you're not a good medium. That's not true. What I'm saying is it is a hotbed of places where people, normal, everyday people with all of our fears, worries and tribulations can come together and learn. And then, look at my journey, Richard. 27 years ago, I walked into a spiritualist church and I never left. I sat in circle, I developed, I grew, I went off and did my own thing. And then one day I was asked to come and see this bloke called Richard on the internet. Would I go and speak to him? That has been a beautiful journey for me, and I wouldn't change it. Ever. You are still online, I take it. Excellent. And it's been so uplifting and fun for me because I can reach people and help more people. But I will always go out and help the churches, to the extent that I was showing them last night how I make my badges so that they could make them and make a few quid and promote their church. Because it's people like us, people like you at home, that set up and run churches. You don't need to be a medium to set up and run a church. It helps, but you don't have to be, because there are enough mediums out there, if we keep promoting churches and this way of life, to go round and serve churches. It is a means to an end for some people. I'm not going to say that it's not.
But it's all that social aspect to it as well, isn't it?
It's got that social aspect.
But there is a downside to churches, though.
What's that?
And yet again, my own experiences. And I think churches or halls or venues that operate in a spiritualist sort of manner, then all for it. But I find sometimes, in my experience, that some of them can be very cliquey.
Yes.
You might walk into a church, you're a newbie, and they say hello. And you, at the end of it, they know you, they've never seen you, because you get the regulars, you'll always see the regulars, but you're sitting on your own. Why don't these church committees approach this person who's walked in on their own and ask if they're okay? What if this person is going through so much trauma right now and don't know what to do?
Yeah.
If we as spiritualists or spiritual beings say we care, say we love, give out the healing, Why is it such a backstabbing, horrible? I know it's the human side of things, because you human beings are weird species from our generation of us light beings, of course, you know.
Yeah.
But why don't people just listen, go up to people, hello, I haven't seen you before, are you okay? I'm so and so.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
just feel people welcomed. And
Yeah.
then if that one person did that, they may feel, oh, I feel good, someone's talking to me. If they
Yeah.
don't
And
want someone to
this is
talk to them, they
this is
just, oh,
very, very
I'm on
true.
my own. You know.
Yeah, and this is extremely true. And we've got a rule. I'm sure people realise by now that my mother is heavily involved in the growth and workings behind the scenes of the church at which I'm in. Um, Tony says himself, indeed, Richard, it can be awkward. Our
Yeah.
church always sat with newbies and made them a cuppa. And this is the thing.
Yeah. Same as what Pamela's
We
saying as
have,
well.
Pamela Gretarek says, but not all churches are like that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel my
Agreed.
church has come a long way and everyone welcome. We've got and I totally agree. I agree with you both. There is that issue that happens, but mum's got a signal. She just gesticulates wildly and waves, new person, and she directs people the fact that there's somebody new there and go and talk to them, go and say hello. We've had a couple of new people turn up at Littleport over the last couple of months that are already a member of the family. We don't have a committee. Here's mother there. She had to get her say in. We make everyone welcome at Littleport. Never get home till midnight, and I live 5 minutes away. Yeah, we live literally a quarter of a mile from the church. We live quite close to each other, and we're both around about a quarter of a mile away from the church. The service ends at 9, and we don't get home till midnight sometimes because we're chatting. It's the social side, and it's the biggest part. The tea and coffee before, the tea and coffee afterwards. We make our own teas and coffees. We don't have someone who does it, but we certainly drag people kicking and screaming into the kitchen and show them where everything is. And it's an essential part, because that might be that person's only social contact week in, week out. We have to recognise that it's community. My congregation age?
Yeah, a range.
The range starts at, I think the youngest was about 5 or 6, all the way up to 7.
What is your regular age range?
From around about 7 or 8.
Adults, Nick, come on.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
I'm serious. We have regular children.
Adults?
Oh, you mean the average age range for adults? I would say it's probably 50 or 60. We've got, obviously, it helps that the minister is 45. But we've got a really, really wide range, and that's why it's hard to put an average on it.
Okay, so
We've got a number of children who come regularly. Then their parents are obviously with them. We've got a couple of young mums who bring their kids too. Then we go up to around about, I would say probably around about 50% are in the up to 50, so 30 to 50 mark.
Okay,
and then the rest would be upwards of that.
Do you think then, this is going to be controversial, when you go to a hall or a pub or whatever the case may be that has a mediumship demonstration in the evening, okay, do you find you get more of the younger generation than a spiritualist church venue who've holding a congregation which would be of an older generation?
Yes, but I think it's improving. I'll be honest with you. If you'd have asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said yes without question. And the reason is, you'd be absolutely right. It is about the appearances and other deceits of, a social location or a church environment. And a lot of groups have gone away from calling themselves churches. And there is still a large percentage of, I agree with that, but the border is shifting.
But do you think it's people
Like
don't
for
want to
instance,
listen to being preached at, for example? They see it too Christian side of things, or
no,
is it because people
I
just want to go
actually
for the
don't.
mediumship?
Because a lot of churches are very there is a large percentage of churches that are affiliated with certain organizations that are by their very nature anti-Christian trimmings and trappings.
So they don't want to hear the prayers. They don't want to hear uh, the, the tunes, the
Yeah,
music, or
there's gonna
whatever.
be an element of that. Of course there is, but I think it's shifting, and there are becoming that there is a every so often there's a wave of younger people start coming in and getting involved and taking an interest. I think when people start hitting probably around about late 20s, early 30s, they start taking an interest. But there are certain churches that do not have the trimmings and trappings of Christianity. Yes, they'll have prayers and some songs, and I say songs, not hymns.
I'm going to jump in again
So
because
that is a part of it, but
do
it
you
is
think
just
though?
that perception of the word church.
Do you think also that, and I'm partly to blame here, along with lots of other hundreds of people here. I can see that smile, so I'm guessing you know what I'm going to say. That do you think that the internet, channels like this, has played a huge part in a decline in people going to venues? I can understand the social aspect of it, but let's take SPTV as an example. You can go into YouTube and they're having
Yeah.
full-blown conversations during our live shows. So it's that social aspect, sitting in the comfort of their home, not have to worry about going out if they're going to have an accident, they're going to be hurt, or if it's too dark, or whatever the case may be. They're safe in their environment, still talking to their friends. Sadly, it doesn't happen as much on YouTube, on Facebook. Sorry, everybody on Facebook. But people on Facebook seem to more of just say, come in, say hello, can I have a
Sit
reading and
down and
stay
watch. Yeah.
and just watch. Whereas the YouTube side of it is more conversational.
Extremely social
Yeah.
and conversational. And I'm
So
going
do
to
you think
answer
that could be
you
the
in a way.
lack of why people are going to halls?
No, no, I don't. And I'm not just saying that because you're here, because I know you genuinely think it. I disagree. I completely disagree, actually, because for every person that sits at home and watches, it's offset by the people that are seeing, taking an interest and going along because of. There might be a little bit of fluctuation there, but I don't think it's a major impactor. It can be more of a help than a hindrance. There are a lot of people who come and take an interest and say, oh, I've seen you online, I decided to come and see you in person. There are a lot of people who can't come. Perfect example, we started doing online parts of our services years before everybody else was doing it. I'm not saying we were professional, I'm not saying it was good, but we were doing it for years because my medium secretary, Reverend Wendy, was bedbound. She would sit in hospital booking mediums for the church. She would ring me the day of a service and say, I just thought I'd let you know that the medium's coming, but I can't talk long because the doctor's coming round. She was bedbound. She was unable to come out. People like her and those that are unable to leave their home are being given more comfort and kindness and compassion and that contact because of services like SPTV and all of the mediums that work online, the churches that are serving online. But it's also showing people what's going on. It's made it more available to people. You know, when before the pandemic, when people weren't so aware of the online stuff of mediumship, we would get the, oh, well, you know, I'm not going there because you do this, that, and the other. And it was nothing to do with prayers and hymns, but it was involving a bottle of wine and a few goats. And, you know, there were some really bad
Did you just
views
say
on.
goats?
Yes. I did say goats. The
I'm not
things
going
I
to go
have
down
been
there.
accused, no, but the things I have been accused of because I say I'm a spiritualist. But what online services, what online facilities like SPTV and the churches that broadcast and do Zoom has done has shown people what's behind that dark mirror. It's shown people that we're not completely insane. It's shown people that the goat survives the service and that we only have wine if we're having a social. There is always going to be a bit of toing and froing, yes, but I feel mostly the services like this have been more of a benefit than a hindrance to churches, because for every one person that stays at home, you'll probably have another that has found spiritualism and wants to go along and take an interest. So I really don't believe so. Reverend Tony mentioned about philosophy. And interestingly enough, you said, people aren't interested in, or are people not interested in that? We used to do, like, once every 6 months, a philosophy show on the internet. And it took an interest. And then since the online interest, people have really started picking up on it, and it's gone from every so often to then once a month to once a fortnight. It's now every week, and people are even buying T-shirts with the logo on it because they're interested in the philosophy. I think a lot and I'm not just saying this, I think there's a lot to be said for the delivery of it. I think there's a lot to be said for how it's done. We keep it fairly light. We keep it fairly engaging. But a church is not building and bricks and mortar. A church is its people. Churches tend to fail because of numerous factors. One of them is not enough support. One of them is too many rules. One of them is not treating new people in a polite and friendly way and clickiness. And another one is simply because they do not engage in any sort of way of any form of interest and are not prepared to grow and develop. There are many different factors. If you look at chaos theory, it says that there are patterns in the universe that can be quite interesting, obvious, and beautiful. But we don't know what those patterns are until we start looking at them. This is a subject that when you scratch the surface, you know that there is no easy answer, and it is, in general terms, dependent on the location and the people. And a church is its people. And once we realize that and create that environment and realize that you could take that group out of that building and chuck them in a field because it's too blooming hot, and it would be the same meeting. We had the service I was at last night, for example, first time I'd ever been there. Didn't know them from Adam, although there were a few people that come along that did know me because it's only 25 minutes away. There was another function going on in the place that they were at, and they didn't know in time that it was going on. Huge party, loud music. Did we get grumpy about it? Did we get stiff upper lip about it? No, we actually made a joke about it, had a laugh about it, and I threatened to send my friends in spirit to go and cut the power. And we all had a laugh about it. If you engage people, bring some upliftment, some love and some laughter and some lightness to it, people will engage, whether it's online or in person. I think that places like SPTV and the online community has reached out to so many more people. Chrissy says, I think it's lovely talking to people on YouTube and having a conversation with strangers. It's easier sometimes because I find sometimes your friends haven't got time, and it's good to talk to people and reach out because some people are stuck in their house because of disabilities or illness. So it's lovely to know SPTV. We can talk to other people and become friends. And absolutely, I completely agree with you. It's the Carlsberg of spiritualism. It reaches places others can't reach. And there are so many people that are deserving of that help and support. And places like SPTV and Facebook and YouTube cover that. Rebecca Whelan says, I would have struggled so much without SPTV. I've been housebound 28 months. I feel I'm going crazy being inside so much. And yet we are able to talk to each other. You are able to reach out to people. It's, like I said, it's a lifeline. There's always going to be message hoggers, as you was mentioned earlier, and I know Terry Louise mentioned that comment too. There's always going to be message hoggers. You get them in churches. Because as soon as somebody puts a hand up to say, oh, I think you're with me, you can see the congregation look around and go, oh, You know, you get that everywhere you go,
Yeah.
online and in churches. Churches have the same problems that online communities have. Online communities have the same problem that churches have. It's just on a bigger scale. And
Absolutely.
I think that an SPTV picnic weekend camp stays is a brilliant idea.
Which leads
I
me
think it really,
lovely
really is.
onto our an idea that SPTV is running with.
Oh, yes.
Um, Obviously, Nick knows because he's got a smile on his face, unless he has wind. I'm not quite sure what's wrong.
Oh, no. We are talking about near-death experiences, aren't we, Richard?
Well, that is one, but that doesn't go with the picnic weekend camp. But what
No,
we-
it doesn't.
But what we are looking into, we've had a meeting. I had a meeting, I should say, on Friday with a very large hotel chain.
I'm with you now.
Now
I've
you-
caught
yeah.
up, dear.
And what we are looking at is a spiritual day where we'll have the hotel with the room and the holistic fair, maybe workshops and talks, dinner, and an evening mediumship purely for the members, or well, the general public, but aimed at SBTV. So everybody can come together, meet one another, say hello, enjoy each other's company. Those who are with SBTV will be allowed to come into the workshops and talks free, etc. The public then have to pay because we have to pay for the venue.
Yes.
I'm just waiting on their email really to say yes or no. But if it does go ahead, hopefully I'm not jumping the gun here, then we'll be touring the UK with all the mediums from SBTV, inviting them along to take part in the whole day event. So it's like a spiritual weekend retreat away, but all in one day, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
keep an eye out for that. Obviously, people who are VIPs of SBTV, they would get first knowledge and they would get the complimentary entry and stuff like that. But there'd be a set fee. So, for example, they would come in, or they can book online. They would come along to the holistic fair. They would get free workshops, talks, demonstrations throughout the day. Yet again, all that would be free for SBTV. And then about 5 o'clock, they'll have a free course meal. And then after the free course meal, they stay in their seat. And then there'll be a demonstration of mediumship from SBTV mediums. But we are going to invite local mediums to the area to take part in the day as well, because we don't want to ignore them either, because obviously they are from the... But it is going to be, if it all works out, an SBTV day. If it works out. So stay with your weekend camp thing. So it's sort of being a weekend, it will be a day one. Okay, but once it all finalises, we'll let you know. So, which then leads on nicely with the talks and demonstrations and workshops and other ideas and philosophy with what Nick was saying.
Yes.
Run VT, Nick.
Roll VT. Let's roll VT. Oh, you've been wanting to do that for years, haven't you?
What area will it roughly be, Nicole says? It will probably be throughout the entire UK. If we get the green light from this hotel chain, we'll be using their hotel, their venues, because the idea then people can stay in their hotel rooms, and they've already agreed that they would give us 15% discount, so that's looking quite nice with that. But it does depend on the venue, because that means I'll have to travel to these venues to make sure it's going to work the way we want. But it's to bring, as our slogan says, bringing spiritual people together. So that's the idea of bringing everybody together, so they can meet people like Nick, who's there, or Tony, or Wendy, or Deb, or whoever the case may be. Is to meet everybody and get drunk. I mean, have a nice evening.
I have to say, obviously, I came to the mind, body, and spirit, the holistic fair, down on the south coast. It really was a wonderful opportunity to get to know people and see people as more than a postage stamp. Because it's great, but it can make you a little bit stir crazy and a little bit unreal. It's like, these people are on my screen. I've never actually physically met them before. It makes a huge difference, meeting Richard for the first time, when I met everybody down on the south coast for the first time.
Driver I was.
He was my taxi driver, and I sent him to the wrong hotel, which is another story for another day. but you get fond memories, you get love and laughter, and you get that sense of community. And it's all made real by seeing that we aren't just postage stamps on screen. We are human beings too, with arms and legs and things below the neckline that you don't see on camera, and that we can actually interact with each other in a more relaxed environment where time isn't so pressure sensitive. It's amazing and so worthwhile, and I'm really excited about that one. So exciting times.
Yeah, the first one, hopefully, if it all goes well, will be in Portsmouth.
Yes.
So if you live near Portsmouth or an hour away, still come down.
Brilliant. I'm going to say, it's not out of the realms of my distances, as you well know. So
But then
there
again,
we are.
May be travelling up to you.
Exactly. Going to say, there's loads of people that I could get along,
Don't
and
want
you know,
there. Yeah, bore me.
well, no. I know. I bore everyone of it in the end, darling. I bore everyone in the end. So anyway, we have a VT, don't we, darling?
We do, yes. We've got Kate May sitting in the background saying, get on with it, stop waffling.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Kate May's Tarot Scope. So, for the first time today, of course, Mr. Producer, roll VT.
Hello and welcome to another week of your tarot readings for the week ahead. It is from the 11th of June 2023. My name is Kate May. We are looking at Aries for your week ahead. You have the 9 of Wands, Aries. Now this card says persevere, don't give up. You are almost coming to the end of perhaps a challenging bit, or just where you've been feeling like going round and round in circles, banging your head against a brick wall. Now things are going to come to light very soon. The workload is going to start to ease. You're going to be able to breathe again and see things a bit clearer. But for now, for this week, just keep going, keep going. Taurus, 10 of Wands. Lots of responsibility on your shoulders this week, Taurus. Try to balance what it is that you've got going on. Don't take on any more jobs or any more responsibility there. It's a 10, so you're almost there. Keep going, keep going. You can see the end in sight. A lot might weigh on your shoulders, but if anyone can handle it this week, you can. Gemini, Queen of Swords. It's time to speak your truth. Things could be needing to be cleared. The air could be needed to be cleared. Not everyone likes to hear the truth, Gemini, but now this is the week that it's got to be done. Short, sharp, to the point, direct. Something is on your mind, Gemini, that you need to clear, and you need to get to the point of it. Cancer, the world. Whole world is coming around you. You have endless possibilities, new chapters, new beginnings, Cancer. Loose ends are being tied up this week and things are coming full circle. You're ready to start a new chapter, but this week is about tying up those loose ends and those travel opportunities, Cancer, that might pop in as well. Leo, High Priestess. Trust your gut feeling this week, Leo. All may not be as clear as what you think it could be. So follow your gut feeling. Now this card indicates trusting your intuition, but also maybe seeking out a psychic or perhaps listening to somebody else's wise words there if you're not clear about something. Virgo, penny dropping moment is coming, Virgo. The wake up card. This week you're going to be able to have that clarification, that clearing, that all knowing. You're going to be able to see the bigger picture this week. It's a big transformational week for you, and this release that comes from that, this huge wake up call, massive on a spiritual level for you, Virgos. But in general around you, there is this new shaking feeling of like stirring excitement. You're waking up. Libra, King of Swords. Now you might need to seek some advice from somebody, perhaps a counsellor, a lawyer, doctor, consultant. Someone is coming around you this week, Libra, to give you some good sound advice, so listen to it. This week you need to detach that emotion and deal with something in a logical fashion. Scorpio, 7 of Swords. Are you being sneaky? Watch your back if it isn't you. This card says, be mindful. You know what's right and what's wrong. If you're going to do something a bit dodgy, you've got a price to pay. You could be caught out, you could be seen, or maybe you're dealing with someone else that's a bit sneaky. Watch your back. Sagittarius, the Queen of Pentacles. You've got it all this week. You're able to manage everything. Home, work, life, children, family, money, everything, friends. You can manage everything. You're also very resourceful this week, Saggy, so you can turn your hand at everything to get extra bonuses, to get extra security, just to feel even more fabulous. This is a great week for you, Saggies, to feel secure, to feel content. Got it all going on. Capricorns. King of Wands, leading the way, Capricorns. You're the boss man, boss girl. This week, Capricorn says, take charge, take lead, be motivated by your power. You could be helping people that need some help and guidance there. You're going up the ladder. You've worked super hard, and Capricorns, you're going to start to see good results here. But you're in a good mood this week, Capricorns, as you lead the way and are able to help others almost reach to where you are. Aquarius. Seven of Pentacles. Now, this week, Aquarius, you're going to have to really think about what you want next. So it's a time of reevaluating, especially around your job, around your finances, reevaluating. So you might have to pause this week while you think about what you want going forward. Take your time, don't rush. You've done a lot of good work already. There's still a bit more ahead of you. But this week, you're being asked to just take a step of pause and reevaluate. And Pisces, it's the end of situations this week for you. This is the week. If there is something that needs to end or needs to have closure, Pisces, this is the week.
Look at that beaming face. The smile is warm enough without the wonderful information. Thank you to the lovely Kate May for week in, week out, serving us with your tarot scope. It is always appreciated. Thank you very much, darling. And it's time to let you know what's going on in SPTV this week, because unfortunately there's no Claire Pasterfield, no Heavenly Sprinkles tonight. But there is something new tonight, is there not, Richard? Isn't it, Astaria?
Yep, she's on at 6 o'clock with her new show.
Excellent. And what can we expect from that show tonight, Richard?
Obviously readings, but she's going to do it in her way. She was on your show not so long ago doing her own way of interpretation reading. So that's going to continue with the show. So we're looking forward to
fantastic
a brand new face to the channel.
Indeed.
I think that's the third one now, isn't it? In the last.
Yes, gonna say it's coming along nicely, and unfortunately, I was serving last Wednesday, so I wasn't able to watch the lovely David Hale, who was with us live last week. But I did watch on playback. Lovely guy, great show. Everyone loves David, it seems, which is brilliant, well deserved too. So look out for Astaria tonight at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and at 8 o'clock tomorrow we have Deb Clark.
The lovely Deb Clark. And now Wednesday, there is a lady you love. And then on Wednesday it's the community showcase. Excellent.
Yeah, we've got JC as well. I don't think there's a showcase this Wednesday because it's fortnightly.
Oh, it's
I think so. Yeah. It's but JC's doing tea leaf readings.
Oh, now so that is a tradition that I can buy into. People often look at things like tea leaves and say, oh, it's very old-fashioned, old fuddy-duddy stuff. Actually, it's brilliant, and it works in exactly the same way as any other form of divination. You know, people at home can fill a bowl up of cold ice water and squirt some fairy liquid in it and do a reading with that. People can read ribbons and flowers. We even had, actual flower reading the palm prints. Tea leaves works in exactly the same way, and it is awesome, and you can get some really good stuff from it. And here we go, Glenda Marie. Hello, says David.
We'd have to bring her back on the channel.
Yes, absolutely. And David did awesome. Absolutely agree. Like I said, I watched on playback, so I'd kept my mouth shut. As much as Richard would probably not believe that.
Let's crack on with the idea for the show that we want to do.
So yes,
we're running out of time, and you still got to do some work.
We are. Yes, I have. So near-death experiences, Richard. I've had one myself. They're called NDEs, near-death experiences. It's that moment where something has happened in the physical world, and people experience sometimes different things, but mostly there's a common theme, a commonality in these experiences where we are reaching that point of no return but we do. And near-death experiences are very prevalent and very well known in this way of life. Many people have experienced them. And in actual fact, a lot of mediums I know have become mediums after that experience. Well, SPTV wants to know about them, don't they, Richard?
Not really. I'm not interested, but the audience knows.
Can I just check? People can still hear you.
Yes, they
I'm
can.
talking to you like they can. Thank God for that.
No, we, as you know, SBTV is trying to open up and broaden our shows. When we first started, we had lots of ideas, lots of. I say we because I always bring in the host, I bring in the viewers with their ideas. So I put that as a collective, a bit like the Borg, and. So the idea was having more shows. We have our philosophy shows, we have palmistry shows, we have crystal shows, we have your daytime shows. We have all these different shows, but we don't really have a documentary style show. So yesterday it was like, okay, we need to bring this into the channel. I expect those listening now will think, oh, I like that idea. Let's steal that and put it on their own channel. But there you go. That's what happens. Yeah. And so the idea is that we want to do a collective. You're not going to be live on there. It's all going to be pre-recorded. So we're looking for people who can come on at a designated time, just them and we'll ask a couple of questions, and it'll be asking about their experiences. It'll be asking about spiritualism in general, what they thought about it. So if you are a medium out there and you want to be a part of this documentary, the idea is going to be an hour, half an hour, like in parts sort of thing, to make people understand exactly what is spiritualism for other people. Not just reading in a piece of paper what the typical was found in the late 1800s by the Fox sisters and blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But what does it mean for an individual? What is spiritualism? So if you're willing to tell your story, please send me an email to info@sptv.uk. I'm just going to put that email in there, info@sptv.uk. Send an email to me, just say you want to take part. I will then contact you, and we'll sort out a date and time where you can come on. It can all be pre-recorded, and that's it. And it'll be in a documentary in a few months' time. That's it.
Absolutely brilliant. I think it's an awesome idea. And, you know, we were talking
Minty.
about...
You've just seen Minty on.
Oh, Minty, good morning. How are you, dear? Well, it's good afternoon now. Good to see you, Minty. Hello, dear. Missing you. Been a while. I think it's brilliant because we were talking about churches, and you know my view. I'm very strongly churches are about the individuals. I think if we can move this way of life forward, it will be because we actually take an interest and share ideas and thoughts and experiences. Philosophy doesn't just have to be the history of spiritualism and one narrow view history of spiritualism, because spiritualism has definitely been around a lot longer than the 1800s. The modern version, obviously, was impacted by that situation. But mediums, this way of life has always been around in one way, shape or form. And I think it's important that we recognise, I as a medium always say, I'm not here to tell you what your relationship with God is. I'm just here to help you understand it if you need to. And it's a personal relationship. And the spiritualist philosophy is also very personal, and it's very unique and individual to each person. So the more we can share thoughts and ideas in whatever format and form, it's so essential to this way of life, to grow it, to build it, to make it stronger and make it last beyond borders, boundaries and rules and all that stuff. So I will advertise it to my heart's content. Speaking of advertising, before I give out some messages, which is what I'm here to do, I've got a little story to share, if I may.
Is it going to be a long story or a short story? Because I'm getting
No, it's
already.
what we were talking about at the beginning.
Okay.
I care about people's development and growth, both personally and spiritually, and I do a lot of guided meditations and circles and workshops, and so I want as many people to benefit as possible. So I've cut an album. And it's called Mastering Liminality. It's a 5-track album, some introductory stuff, and then 3 meditations. One of them is 27 minutes long, so you definitely get your money's worth. Um, and I've cut this album called Mastering Liminality. It is available on Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, and many other streaming services. It's not available on iTunes because they don't really like guided meditations through the channel that I use. But it's on pretty much every other one. And if you are certainly subscribed to a streaming service, you don't have to pay for it. You can just stream it and listen and join in and do it. And it's about personal growth, personal development. It's about, connecting to spirit, connecting with yourself, learning, growing, and seeing your first steps or your advanced steps. It's not for any particular section of this way of life. It's tailored for everyone. It's simple enough for the beginner, and it's interesting enough for someone who's been doing it years. And like I said, it's called Mastering Liminality, and it's available on all good streaming services. So if you're interested, jump along, have a look, and get streaming. I don't very often plug myself, but I'm quite proud of it, and I had a lot of lovely people helping me, being my beta testers. So big shout out to all of you lovely people,
Nick,
too.
you do so much for SBTV. You do so much for the spiritual community. You've bridged gaps between loved ones from spirit to the people, you human beings on the earth plane, and you should be credited for the work that you do. So I hope people will go out and purchase this to help fund what you do, because I do know that you are selfishly, you put a lot of your money into helping others, so sometimes you need it back to live, Nick.
Yeah,
a little telling off there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm getting told off by a lot of
support you
people
do for SBTV as well, and I expect that's going to come from everybody else here as well. So it's not a selfish plug. If I thought it was, I wouldn't let you do it. It's that simple.
This is very true. This is very true. Thank you, Richard. It means a lot, and I love SPTV, and I love the community, and I love the work that I do. But it would be nice to be able to pay the rent and put some food on the table.
Because I heard about when you sell your body, you get too many refunds.
I know. I mean, I was quite chuffed when I got 57 clients, but walking away with £5.70 is really not good. And Minty says, you should be proud, dude. I bet it's awesome. Thank you, mate. It's appreciated. Mastering Liminality is about bridging those empty spaces, and some of them are in our own hearts, and it's about working through them. So Dawny says 100% supporting Nick. It's amazing what he does. Thank you, darling. Bless you. I'm feeling the love this morning, and I know I'm a bit of a gobby what's it, but I do struggle with self-promotion, and I do struggle with taking compliments, but I do appreciate them all. Thank you so very much. It's very, very kind of you, but it is about the work. It's about helping people too. So, I think I'll let myself off just this once. Speaking of helping people and getting information out to bridging the two worlds, I'm sure somebody out there wants a message. So let's see who we've got. Yes, thank you. So I do have a lady stepping forward now. Bless your heart. Thank you, darling. I was worried that I was getting heat stroke, but it's not. It's her, especially the quickness that it came on. There's this lady. She would have had pains in her head on this side here, and I do feel a lot of confusion with her. I do feel a lot of struggle with her. I know there would have been a condition of the brain that would have been something along the lines of dementia. And also, thank you. I know that she would have, when there would have been a reason why she would have had a problem down her neck as well. I feel like my head is stuck almost. I had wry neck once, and I couldn't move my head because I had this taut muscle that wouldn't go. It was the only one in my body that actually was noticeable. I haven't had abs since I was 6. And this lady, I know she's a grandmother as she steps forward. I know she wants to speak to Andrea Reese says, my mother had dementia. Would all of the other information connect? We've got Sharon Thomas who said could be, ma'am. Let me get some information to narrow this down for you. I know that there is a granddaughter that she's particularly deeply proud of because of some achievement they've just had. And Glenda says you can take it. Would this be your grandmother, Glenda? Because I can see this grandmotherly feeling and this absolute pride in the way she wants to talk about this granddaughter. And also there is, thank you, T. There's there's something happening next Tuesday. I don't know whether it's an anniversary or an event or something that you've been looking towards, but there's something happening Tuesday, she says. So the granddaughter would be your. My word, darling, you don't look old enough to have a daughter. Bless your heart. T, we called her Tita. Thank you. Would you also understand? No, correction. You would also understand, Glenda, that there's something to do with smoking. I don't know whether it's a dislike or she was a chimney. I've struggled with the smoking coming through since I quit in February. It's really, really weird. But there's something about smoking being very, very core with her. And there's also actually she was really ahead of her time because she's sitting here looking at all the wiring that I've got going around my table to keep the laptop going, and she's taking an interest in it, and she's saying, well, it would go a lot quicker if you unplugged that one. You're not actually using it. So she was very technically minded, very interested in such things. She's laughing now. She's saying, I might not have been able to have written a program, but I certainly knew my way round a plug socket. So there's an interest and a knowledge of such things. But it was then so heartbreaking to see this decline with her condition here, because this is starting to come back now. I hope you can understand this, Glenda. The reason she used to smoke many years back, and she was a control freak. Thank you. I know you've just said she was a control freak, but it was so frustrating for her not being able to do the things that she wanted to do. But there's something really important she has to say to you, and I think it's really beautiful news. I never really forgot. I never really forgot. There might have been moments where I was unsure, but I never really, bless you, darling. I never really forgot, Glenda. I never really forgot. And so she wants you to know that she heard everything. She experienced everything. And even though there would have been grey moments, I never really forgot. That seems to be something that is so vital for her to get across to you. I never really forgot. I never really forgot. Thank you. And of course, being mediumistic, dementia, people with dementia have what I call a bus pass to the spirit world. Automatic, instant ability to communicate spiritually. So that would be what she means. Thank you, Glenda, for that. I'd forgotten that role. Can't remember you can't remember everything, dear. She was actually really quite sympathetic and kind and generous, even though she was a control freak. And she would take people under her wing. She would take people in. But if you crossed her, you would know about it. I don't believe she would have held a grudge, but she would certainly communicate that she was not happy, and she would use it as a life lesson to help people grow. And I don't really believe that she would ever give up on anybody. And she's telling me that this is where you get that kind of attitude from. So, carry on, keep fighting, and know that I am watching. You do, of course you do. But, we talk about validation all the time, and we talk about doctors being our patients. Mediums can be just as bad. I am here, I am watching, and I will never forget. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Spot on with a person. Thank you, darling. I appreciate that. So take her love, her upliftment, her laughter, and her. I've got to do this to you just before I go. I will be watching. And never turn people away. Thank you, Glenda. God bless you for that. And take her love. And thank you for accepting her. Let's see who else is about. Okay, you're very welcome. There's a gentleman stepping forward. Thank you. He's just offered me a couple of paracetamol for my head. Bless his heart. Please don't be a chemical sharer. This gentleman has just offered me a couple of paracetamol. He's come and sit next to me. He's really interested in what's going on. He finds it all very intriguing. Thank you. What I'm getting from him is that he wouldn't necessarily have been very much interested or even aware of what we do in this way of life. But as he sits there, he's very intrigued now about how it all works. It's almost like he's learning in circle upstairs, which of course they do, to communicate to us down here. It's a two-way process. We go up, they come down, we meet in the middle, have a chit chat, there we go. And this gentleman was a bit of a talker, and he was interested in how things worked. He was interested in how things grew, and he was interested in process. Very, very scientifically minded in that way. He might not have been a scientist, but he could have been. Because he had that kind of mindset. It's about discovery. And he was always intrigued and interested with discovery. This gentleman, as he steps closer now, thank you. Okay. I do know that he would have been dizzy a lot with him. I'm also very much aware that because he was a talker, he tended to not notice the obvious. He did, though. He did. He says, I did notice. People thought I didn't, but I didn't miss a trick. This gentleman is coming through as a father figure. I have to call out a name that would connect with him as David. So it would either have been him, or it would have connected with someone close to him that is a British. I'm not very good with names. I can never remember people's names when I talk to them, so I'm not very good names of spirit, but I do get them occasionally. Andrea says, my dad. Would you understand the David connection? Would you understand the slight dizziness, the intrigue, the interest, the discovery, and also the first thing he did was offer me a couple of paracetamol. So sympathetic, humorous, and finding it funny that he's offering me paracetamol. If you can understand that, Andrea, just let me know, and we'll see what else we've got with this gentleman. He's sitting here, and it's hard to describe. And best friend was David. Thank you, darling. If I can work with you for a moment. He's sitting here, his legs slightly apart. He's shaking he's on his tippy toes even though he's sitting, so his legs slightly apart on his tippy toes, just up and down a little bit with his how ankles shake in the air when the toes are attached, and he's got his hands folded across his lap, and leaning slightly forward because it's that engagement and that interest and anticipation and excitement with him as well. As he steps forward, he's also asking me to remind you of the chicken. Very dizzy. Thank you, Andrea. He's also asking me to remind you about the chickens. So there must be some kind of memory link to do with a chicken or a hen or a. I feel it was a live chicken, but I may be wrong with that. But there would be a memory link involving a chicken, whatever that was. And he's wanting to just remind you of fun and happiness and laughter. I know it wasn't always the case, And I know it's certainly not the case when it comes to Dad being up there rather than here. But the thing that you know about him, the thing that you will understand about him, is this is a guy who can make good in every situation. He will find a way round of dealing with things, and he will find a way of turning negatives into positives. This is what I'm getting from this gentleman. And he's saying this is just one of them. I've learned so much. It's really, really interesting. I feel... Thank you. What I'm getting with him now is that I feel that if he was on the Earth plane and telling you that you were watching this, he'd have probably had a bit of a giggle, maybe even scoffed a little bit. I don't think he'd have ruled it out completely, but he would have had a little bit of a giggle and a little bit of a scoff, and then probably gone off and done some research. But he wants you to know that he thinks it's brilliant. He thinks it's brilliant. And I know thank you, Andrea. Yes, that's bless your heart. And I know that we've been talking about different ways of working today. Chickens chased my... Oh, bless you. Thank you, darling. Wow. We've been talking about different ways of working today. We've been talking a little bit about the philosophy and a little bit about those that will take advantage. He knew how to stop people taking advantage. He was a shrewd cookie, and you have learnt that from him, and he's got your back with that. And you know when someone's sending you down the garden path, and you know when someone's genuinely trying to help, and he's saying, I want you to remember those lessons. I want you to remember those lessons. You are so strong and powerful. You just don't see it. He's getting a little bit emotional now, to be fair, because I know you said you're brokenhearted, but he's so afraid holding your back and not living your life because of him. He wants you to be happy, and he wants forward. He wants you to step up, and you're getting there with people. Brilliant. But he would be so, and there's a word that I'm not allowed to say in a public forum, so I will just edit it and translate it to peeved. He would be so peeved to think that he would be the cause of heartache for you. And I know that's him, and I know you would understand that, and I know that you would say, but and I agree with you, I get it personally, but he just wants you to know that you don't have to worry about him. And okay, he says the one thing about being up here is that I don't have to wait for you to answer the phone to get hold of you, and you don't have to wait for the phone to answer to get hold of me. I'm just a thought away, which can be very dangerous sometimes, because there are some things we like to keep. So I know this gentleman would be a little bit naughty, a little bit witty, and a little bit fun. And of course you miss him, but I'm not too far away. Just shout and I'll hear you. And that's who he was. And you don't have to worry about how many rings are on the phone now to get hold of him. I don't know whether this is a memory link or a Mickey take or a bit of a giggle as well, but he's just there's a pair of scissors on my table, and he's just looking at them and laughing and saying, keep those away from Andrea, whatever you do. Keep those away from Andrea. So I don't know whether there's been an incident involving scissors that would stand out in your mind, or something that's happened recently, but he's just saying keep the scissors away from Andrea, whatever you do. So I'll give that with love. And okay, there's a kids TV program that I used to watch, where he'd shout out "Strength of a Bear," and I can't remember what it is now. But he's just talking about the strength of a bear. And he wants you to have that. So when you call on him, just imagine yourself asking, thank you for the strength of a bear. And it will be there. It will be there. And so do take his love, Andrea. Take his upliftment. And I will say to you, God bless, and hope that was for... right, before I go, thank you. My brother has stage 4 cancer. That makes me sad. There's your strength of a bear. And there's the person you call on. Dad will be watching. People talk about... thank you. is so important for anyone else. Life does suck sometimes. It really, really does. We can talk about healing to our heart's content. And I think some people make the mistake of thinking that healing is a go-to cure. There are moments when healing can cure things, but most of the time it's there to help, to give comfort for people who are suffering, and people who are suffering on behalf of other people, and people who are suffering because other people are suffering. Take that healing from Dad, both of you and all of you. I know there's a lot more people rooting for him and your brother. I ask for everyone who's online right now and watching this in the future to send you and your brother healing, not for a hope of a cure, because we know at the end of the day when it comes to this, and I learned this from my dad, thy will, not my will. But we can bring each other comfort. We can bring each other an easement of the burden by listening to each other, being kind to each other, and sending healing is the first step. Sending healing because you know people care, because they're saying healing on the way. It means so much sometimes when you feel isolated, alone, and as if there is no hope. There is a hope of eternity. There is a hope of an easement of pain and suffering. And I tell you this much, it's no small hope. So I send you, Andrea, my love. I send your brother my healing thoughts, and I know everyone will join me with that. So God bless you and your brother, and your dad too, who's just reminded me, don't forget me. I am still here, you know. I'll say God bless you, and we're all here for you if you need to talk. And I believe that is the moment. We've hit 12:30. It's been an adventure. Richard, are you still there, my friend? Ah, I'm just making sure
I'm
that
still here. Just had to turn it on.
I bless you. I was just making sure I hadn't, sent you off to sleep or anything.
A quick question, if I may. When you get that such a beautiful, emotional, heartfelt message from a loved one, how does it make you feel?
Depends on the situation. For the most part, I can hold it together. For the most part, I feel compassionate. I don't do sympathy because that's sometimes very rude. What I do is empathy. I want to be there for people so that they can talk. So I feel very empathic towards the situation rather than sympathetic, because sympathy is, oh, they're there, never mind. Whereas empathy is, I'm here, come and talk to me. But I feel compassion. I feel a desire to want to do something for someone, even if it's just listen, offer that hope of eternal life on the extreme. When it's very, very close and personal, when it reminds me of something that's impacted me, it reminds me of my pain and my sadness. It reminds me of the burden that those around me experienced. But it definitely reminds me of the reason that I do this. The reason I do this is to make sure that no one is alone. No one suffers alone, because if you suffer alone, you are truly suffering. If you are not alone, that suffering is eased. And my message to people is use your pain to help other people, because just like healing, as you give, so too you receive. If you can help someone who's experienced something that you have, it helps you, but it also helps them. And if it's in a public domain like this, it may help others. I don't do this to get plaudit. I don't do this to get, oh, look, that's Nick, he's on SPTV, or that's Nick, he's a minister, or that's Nick, he's the bloke from Littleport. I do this because I want people to feel that they are not alone. There's a small tale that sums up how I feel when I experience emotion like this. There's a bloke, he falls into a hole, and he looks up and he can see no way out. And as he looks up, he sees a doctor walk past, and he says, "Hey, doc, I'm stuck in a hole. Can you help me here?" The doctor writes a prescription and throws it down to him and carries on.
That would never
And he's
happen.
sitting
You've
there.
got to wait 2 weeks to get through to the receptionist first.
Well, yeah, there is that. A moment later, a minister, and I do use this one deliberately, a minister walks past and he says, "Hey, Reverend, I'm stuck in a hole. Can you help me here?" So the minister writes on a piece of paper a prayer, throws it down in the hole, and carries on walking. So anyway, half an hour passes and suddenly he sees someone he recognises. He says, mate, I'm stuck in a hole. Give us a hand here. The mate pulls up his sleeves, hitches up his trousers and jumps down into the hole. And he says, "Mate, what on earth have you just done? Now we're both stuck in a hole." And the friend says, "Yes, I know, but I've been down here before and I know the way out. Let's go." That's what emotional messages make me feel. I want to jump in that hole and show you the path that I found. It might not be totally accurate for you. It might not be totally the right way for you, but you're not on your own. And I know a direction out. If it helps you, it helps you. If it doesn't, you're still not on your own. That's what emotional messages remind me I'm in this for. That's what emotional messages remind me of. Be honest with you, when it's a father figure, sometimes I struggle, especially if the situation reminds me of my dad. But then I know that he's up there rooting for me and kicking my backside whenever I need a kicking, talking to people and telling them to give me a kicking and reminding me that I've got bills to pay, for example. And reminding me that actually, in spite of that loss, I got to experience all that time with him. So rather than feeling sadness, I'm blessed to have had that experience in spite of the price at the end of it. So if that can help anybody, then I'm happy. And
Lovely.
if that can be of benefit to anyone, I've done my job.
Absolutely lovely. But a simple yes that made me feel good would have been easy enough to answer the question.
Richard, darling, since when have I ever given a simple yes or no?
Anyway, just a gentle reminder, I'm taking your job over, Nick.
Yes, that's fine.
6 p.m. tonight, we've got a new show with you at 6. A quick hello to Sarah Warman. She says hi to Nick. So thanks for coming in.
Hi.
As you know, we don't have Claire at 8 o'clock tonight, but if I can find someone to jump in and subsidise, if someone can jump in and help out for the 8 o'clock. If there's any mediums out there who would want to jump on for 8 o'clock, please let me know, and we can do that to help Claire out. Apart from that, I'm going to hand you back to Nick because I'm going to do my producer side of things
behind
now.
the scenes.
Take care, everyone.
Absolutely. Bye for now. Thank you for coming on, Richard, and keeping me
pleasure.
company. I'm sure we all say thank you, and I know we all enjoy hearing from Richard. Friends, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for taking time out to be here on this glorious day. If you're in the line of sight, there is going to be storms out there, so play safe. If there isn't going to be storms and the heat carries on, find shade, find fluid, find peace and upliftment. Stace says, 100% agree, and that's what remembers them with a smile over remembering the loss with the tears. Totally agree, Stace. Thank you. And thank you, everyone at home. Don't forget, 6 o'clock tonight, be there or be square. And also keep supporting. Don't forget to join in and join the family by becoming an SPTV VIP. It only costs 37p a week and it's really, really worth it. There's even a link to my meditation CD in the VIP lounge. That was subtle, wasn't it? But for now, my friends, have a beautiful week. Whatever you're doing, know you're not alone. Whatever you're doing, don't be alone. Keep safe, keep well. And from all of us here at SPTV, may the peace of the Great Spirit go with you all. God bless you and see you soon. God bless and goodbye.